Right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Multicultural Perspectives Google Hangout. We're very excited to have you join us. My name is Lucerito Ortiz, and I'm an admissions officer here for Harvard College. And I'm also co-director for the Undergraduate Minority Recruitment Program, or the UMRP, as we call it. The UMRP is a student-staffed branch of our office dedicated to supporting talented students of color around the country through the college search, application, and selection process. So we actually employ current students to work with us as coordinators throughout the year to help answer your questions about admissions, financial aid, and the Harvard student experience. We encourage you to get in touch with us throughout the year. If there are any questions that we can help answer for you, you can reach us via email at umrp@fas.harvard.edu. And our student coordinators will be more than happy to help answer any questions that you may have about their Harvard student experiences. So we have 3 of our summer coordinators joining us today. And I'd love to give each of you the opportunity to introduce yourselves.
Hi everybody, my name is Andrea Delgado and I am a rising sophomore here at the college. I'm studying history and science on my road to becoming a pediatrician, and I also am involved in Latinas Unidas and club swimming.
Hey everybody, my name is Denzel Page. I am a rising junior at the college. I am majoring in sociology, and in my spare time I love to be active in clubs such as the Black Men's Forum, the Black Students Association, and I am also a member of Harvard's football team.
Hi everyone, my name is Kimi. I am a rising sophomore. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. Beyond working for the admissions office, I'm very involved in the Association of Black Harvard Women and Black Students Association.
Great. So I'll start us off with a couple of questions for our 3 students, and we'll dive into a little bit about their experiences, and we welcome any questions that you have. Please feel free to submit them, and we're happy to answer those as we are able to. So just to start us off, we'll go back to the beginning of your freshman year. Would each of you tell us a little bit about your transition to Harvard and how your personal background may have impacted that transition?
Sure, I guess I'll start. So I'm from Carpinteria, California. It's a small, like 15,000 person town on the coast. So it was a big transition for me coming to a bigger city. Also, my high school was 600 people, so it was very different being in a freshman class of 1,600 and in a college of 6,500 about. But I think there were a lot of kind of resources and support networks to help me. My proctor, which is kind of your advisor that lives with you, he was always there, you know, checking in, making sure I wasn't homesick, making sure I was kind of keeping up on my schoolwork. So that was really nice to help me kind of in my personal transition. I think my biggest academic transition came in writing. I had never taken like an AP English class, so I kind of felt like my writing kind of wasn't up to the college level, but luckily Harvard has expository writing 20, which all freshmen have to take to kind of get you up to that level of writing at Harvard and writing 10, 15, 20-page research papers. So I really liked that.
Well, awesome. Like Denzel here, my experience coming from a predominantly white high school, a small college preparatory school, was pretty unique, and it kind of prepared me for Harvard. I was in the IB program in my high school that helped me kind of, you know, get ready for classes such as Expos 20 and things like that. But the biggest adjustment for me was definitely the winter because I'm from South Florida. But what Harvard does for students is they have a really awesome shuttle service. It takes you anywhere you need to go around campus. That really helped me out during the winter months, and also they have a winter coat fund that helps students from warm weather places buy winter gear to prepare themselves for the winters here. So that was my biggest adjustment, as well as managing time, balancing a football schedule and an academic schedule. But Harvard has a lot of resources like the Bureau of Study Council that students can go to get help if they need help with papers or peer advising or anything of the sort. So it definitely helped my college transition.
Great. So personally speaking, I came from a public school in California, and if you know anything about those, they're very underfunded and there's a lot that can be improved with them. So essentially I came in with not the strongest academic background, but the moment I stepped on campus, I felt so supported by teaching staff, by professors and advisors left and right. I can remember throughout freshman year just staying in my professor's office for hours upon hours working on P sets together to figure out things. And this was really great to have that kind of support from someone who obviously is very busy on campus, but at the same time, he was there to remember his students. And I think that goes for all teachers, all professors, and all advisors on Harvard campus. They know and realize that they are here for their students, and they make us their priorities by making sure they have things like office hours, just making meetings throughout the week to make sure that their students are comfortable.
Great. What were some of your biggest fears coming into Harvard, and how did those translate to your experience here during your freshman year?
I think for me, my biggest fear was cutthroat competition. I came in as a pre-med student, so I was like, everyone else is going to be trying to get to medical school also. No one is going to want to share notes with me or form a study group with me, but it's been the absolute opposite. There's a lot of collaboration in classes on completing readings or completing a problem set, and it's even encouraged. My chemistry professor, Greg Tusey, he told us they make the homework harder than what they teach you in class because they want you working and collaborating with one another. So kind of what I came in having as my biggest fear kind of became the most fulfilling part of my education because I got to learn from but also sometimes teach my peers.
For me, my biggest fear was definitely not being able to fit in at Harvard, being a minority. For me, the perception was that there were going to be a lot of elitist students, and you weren't going to be able to talk to them. Everybody was going to be really competitive. But once I got here, I realized how diverse everybody was and how down to earth the student body was. I thought I was going to be like really isolated in terms of my classes and even the social atmosphere at Harvard. But I found that Harvard does a really great job of orchestrating family and community to help students make friends and to branch out and to meet new people who have different experiences, which is really cool. Like all freshmen live in Harvard Yard together. Your entryway go through weekly get-together, so you guys will meet with your proctor and have fun. All freshmen also eat in Annenberg dining hall, and you can just go up to a random person, sit down, and say hello. And people are really friendly here, and it made my transition really easy, and I had a great time meeting some great people along the way.
So in my case, my biggest fear was leaving my family behind. As I mentioned, I'm from California, and I have a really big family. I have 4 older sisters who literally are everything to me. And they all stayed in California for college, whereas I was the only one to go East Coast. And I was really fearful of what was to come, not being able to find my niche and things like that. But honestly, it was very, very easy to do so. Denzel kind of already mentioned one of the ways by which I was able to do so, and that's Annenberg Dining Hall. So I would come in after a long day of classes, literally just sit at a random table and be able to strike up an awesome conversation with someone who I had never met before. And while Harvard students generally are from very different backgrounds, they're always very easy to get to know. So I know I met somebody who was from Norway one time, and I had never even met someone from Norway, let alone seen someone from Norway. So it was really great to just talk to her about her experiences and the cultural differences. And at the end of the day, when it came down to it, we were very similar. And even beyond that, through extracurriculars on campus, I also have definitely found my home. So like I mentioned, I am in the Association of Black Harvard Women, and through that organization in particular, I found my closest friends on campus. Even this past semester, when I got sick before finals, I remember I was sitting in a library, and I call them my sisters, but 3 of my sisters, they came to the library, handed me chocolate, and gave me some encouragement to study for finals, and that was really great of them.
So switching to focus a little bit more on each of your racial and cultural backgrounds and identities, do you feel like your racial and or cultural identity has impacted your Harvard experience, and if so, how?
I think it's impacted it in only positive ways. I feel like I'm very respected in the classroom. No one ever kind of diminishes my viewpoint or anything like that because I am from a minority background. I think it's given me a pretty rich experience here at Harvard in the sense that I found a home kind of through Fuerza Latina and Latinas Unidas. It's somewhere where I can go. We have meetings like once a week. We have dinner together and we talk about any Latin American current events. And then there are also really fun kind of end of the semester formals and dinners, which are really fun to get to socialize with the Latino community here at Harvard. And then I'm also like not prevented from joining any other cultural groups. So I've gone to like Nigerian Student Association galas, and I've gone to Association of Black Harvard Women discussions. So I think that kind of the cultural diversity that Harvard has exposed me to a lot of ideas and ways of thinking that I wasn't exposed to before, coming from a pretty homogenous white and Mexican community.
I would definitely agree with that. I feel like my cultural experience has definitely benefited my time here at Harvard thus far. I found a great community within Harvard on a cultural level, and my parents were both born in Jamaica, so I was kind of raised with Jamaican roots and things like that, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to find a community at Harvard that shared those same sentiments that I had, and it kind of made me feel a little hesitant. But once I got on campus, everything changed, and Harvard does a really great job of fostering the cultural diversity at Harvard. Like I mentioned before, I'm in the Black Men's Forum, and there are students from all over the country who support the cultural causes, and we do everything from having social discussions to throwing concerts and going out into local middle schools and helping students and giving back. So it's really awesome, and it's allowed me to reach out to some great people and to learn a lot from people with different experiences.
Yeah, so I totally agree with what Denzel just had to say. My experience has been very similar, being that I am Nigerian. I'm Nigerian American. Both of my parents immigrated here from there a couple years ago. And really just coming onto campus, I feel like my racial identity has really kind of given a different kind of lens on my Harvard experience, in that I am able to come in with my background and my experience and just basically apply everything that I've learned throughout life to my studies, towards my academics. And this is really great because Harvard's campus as is very diverse, but I think having people from such different backgrounds really fosters such a great learning community. So while I have this Nigerian background, I'm able to, talk to other people in a certain manner, and they'll talk to me in a different manner. And it's really great to be able to just see different perspectives left and right because of these racial identities we have here on campus.
So all of you have mentioned a couple of the cultural organizations that each of you are involved in. But can you speak a little bit more about about cultural life on campus, cultural communities, and what your involvement in cultural organizations has meant to you?
Yeah, so I actually didn't really started getting very involved in cultural communities until probably midway through my fall semester, and I think it was because I thought maybe it was something that I didn't need and I would be fine, but come, November, I was like, I miss speaking Spanish and I miss, having tacos and stuff like that. So that's kind of the reason why I started attending meetings more regularly. Latinas Unidas has been great to, I'm kind of really into like women's activism and stuff like that. So it's been a great intersection of my cultural background and kind of also like my political views, I guess. And it's also been a really good way for me to meet upperclassmen. The first meeting that we had of the year, it was just an hour of them giving advice on where to buy books or where to go shopping or kind of how to handle your first semester at Harvard. So I kind of have, I guess, big sisters or something like that that I can lean on, email, text, anytime I have a question. And then Fuerza Latina is the pan-Latino cultural organization on campus. So, there's like La Organización de Estudiantes Puertorriqueños in Harvard, there's Raza, which is a Mexican-American group, and so many others, but Fuerza Latina kind of encapsulates them all and has joint dinners for all of the Latinos at Harvard to get to know each other. And then also I think one of the cool things is the end of the year senior dinner. We kind of highlight each senior and the activism that they've contributed to the Harvard campus with respect to multicultural diversity. And the Harvard Foundation actually recognized a ton of our seniors for their work and activism this past year, which we can probably talk about a little bit later.
Just like Andrea said, really getting integrated into the Black community is one of my favorite things about the cultural scene on Harvard. It's a really great way to meet upperclassmen, to get to know them, and to actually honor the racial identities all throughout campus. Every year, towards the end of the spring semester, ABWA and BMF will honor, we'll have a celebration of Black men and a celebration of Black women, like different organizations acknowledging and representing the good works that seniors have done throughout their careers here at Harvard. But for me personally, I really loved the BMF DWS program, which is the David Walker Scholars Program. And with that, we just went into local middle schools to encourage minority students to pursue their education. And through that, I learned a lot about these students and the struggles that they had to go through, and it's actually helped me grow a lot. and looking at my own life and what I could possibly do on campus, which is also really cool. And what I love about Harvard is that, these cultural groups aren't exclusive. They usually combine and join together to perform some really cool things on campus, like cultural rhythms. Cultural rhythms is something that it's a huge performance, and there's everything there from poetry and music and fashion shows, and it's really like the melting pot of Harvard, and it's really cool. There's some really cool people that come, like John Legend is coming, Shakira is also coming, so it's really cool, and it's a great time, and it's enhanced my Harvard experience.
So the cultural clubs on Harvard's campus have really helped me find my place. It's really great to be able to meet up with people who have similar backgrounds to mine, not necessarily always the same, but very similar backgrounds to mine, and just congregate together. And as Denzel mentioned, we do have a number of events on campus that are really meant to celebrate ourselves, which is really great. I think it's an awesome thing that we do because often enough, people just downplay themselves. Whereas within our communities, within these cultural clubs and organizations, we literally have events to celebrate students who've done well throughout all 4 years. Even beyond that, one of the really huge things on campus is our email list. So each student, whenever they come on campus, they can sign up to be put on a BSA list or whatever group they're in. They might get signed up for a list. And on the BSA list in particular, I know they're really, really great about just offering words of encouragement. So a friend of mine who actually got into Harvard Law School a couple weeks ago, I remember there were emails left and right, people sending back GIFs, congratulating her and saying, oh, great job for getting into Harvard Law School. And it's awesome to see that kind of community. Even though while everyone is away during the summertime, people are able to remember their sisters or their brothers here on campus and offer them that word of thanks and or just congratulate them.
So considering, we have a question here from Shri, and she is asking if these cultural clubs spread awareness of the different cultures on campus. I would say yes, they do. A lot of it kind of comes through art, I would say, like in cultural rhythms, like Denzel mentioned. So like there we had like the Hellenic Student Association danced, and Mariachi Veritas did music. So kind of it happens a lot through art, and then also groups sometimes have publications that they come out with or put their group's meeting to other email lists. Like I'm on the swim club list, but I'll get a meeting about going to the Black Student Association meeting or something like that. And then usually they spread awareness of their culture like through art, like I said, and then also at those meetings. We have like shirts, like I am a Harvard Latino and stuff like that, just to kind of gain visibility around campus.
Considering the strength of the cultural communities on campus and how much a lot of students identify with these communities, and sort of tied a little bit to Shree's question, would you say there is any level of self-segregation on campus when it comes to racial groups?
Well, I don't see that at all on Harvard's campus. Like I said before, Harvard is a huge melting pot, and everyone you meet has a different story, has a different experience, and has a different perspective on life. So students gather around and they talk to each other freely and openly and willingly. And like I said, Harvard plays a big part in orchestrating that. Like I said, in Harvard Yard, all the freshmen live together. You're not segregated by your race or your background or anything like that. You get to meet awesome people from all over the world, and you get to form some really great bonds with a lot of different people. My current roommates, some of them are Mexican, some of them are black, and some of them are Caucasian, and we just all really gel together through our freshman experiences. It plays a big part in developing who you are and who your friendships will be, with. So me personally, I haven't seen it here on campus.
Yeah, I would say that because Harvard has so many amazing people from so many different backgrounds, one, it's hard to self-segregate, and I think also people don't want to. I think part of the Harvard experience is opening up yourself to gaining from other people's experiences, and most people have that mindset. So I think it'd almost be hard to find a group that only socializes with their own race or their own ethnicity or economic background, something like that. Harvard is really a place where you are supposed to grow, and I think that for you to self-segregate, it almost kind of counteracts that, so most people don't.
So last semester there was a student-driven organized effort on campus, a campaign, initially a play, and then a photo campaign called I Too Am Harvard, where students spoke about some of their personal experiences as students of color on this campus. Can one or a couple of you speak on the campaign and what you think that says about the racial climate on campus?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm really glad you brought this up because I was asked to be a part of the campaign. I turned it down because I felt like that wasn't my experience on Harvard's campus, and I didn't feel like adopting a story that was my own. But at the same time, I'm very, very happy and glad that it was brought up because, you know, these kind of things, they happen nationally, nationwide, in all other colleges and universities. And it's important for these things to be brought to light so that these issues can be fixed. And even with the campaign going on today, I know that there are a number of steps being taken to just basically better Harvard community, whether it's by hiring more faculty of color, just having more discussions about race and culture on campus. It's really great that this campaign has sparked those conversations left and right, and they really need to be brought to light.
I also agree with that. I was also asked to be a part of the I Too Am Harvard campaign, but like Kimi, I couldn't because that hasn't been my experience on campus. And my thought behind it is that Harvard does a really good job of, you know, admitting students from all over the country and all over the world, meaning that some students have a great deal of experience with minorities and some students don't. They're really not familiar with you know, other students from different places. So and sometimes they may say things that are microaggressions that may come off as a bit insensitive or whatever the case may be, but it's never with an intent to be hurtful or demeaning or anything like that. But for a student who is a minority, sometimes it can be taken that way. So I definitely understand why someone would feel the need to, you know, speak up. And I'm glad we have really passionate students to bring these type of issues to light. And I'm really glad that a place like Harvard, you know, is open to listen and open to make change about it.
Great. So we have a couple more questions from some of our viewers. So Roberto Correa wants to know about the cost of Harvard College, and I'm actually really happy to speak briefly about our financial aid program. We have an incredibly generous and strong financial aid program because we want to make sure that a student's financial circumstances are never an impediment to their ability to attend Harvard. You know, our students have been speaking about the strength of the diversity on this campus and the fact that we are able to bring students from all kinds of different backgrounds is part of what makes this such a powerful and life-changing experience. And so our financial aid program is in large part what allows us to do that. So we give need-based financial aid. So the financial aid that we provide is based on a family's financial situation. So we don't have any merit-based scholarships. All of the financial aid that we give in our financial aid packages are grants. So we don't require loans as part of our financial aid packages, and we meet 100% of every family's demonstrated need. If a family makes under $65,000 per year, then the family is not expected to contribute to the cost of attending Harvard. And within the cost, we include things like room, board, tuition, and additional expenses as well. For families making between $65,000 and $150,000 per year, they can expect to contribute between 0 and 10% of their incomes toward the cost of attendance. And the rest, as I mentioned, we will cover in the form of grants and scholarships. So because of our very generous financial aid program, we're very dedicated to giving students the ability to graduate without any debt. And we're very proud of our ability to work with families to make Harvard affordable for all students and all families that attend. Do any of you personally want to speak on your experience with the financial aid program or office in either your decision to attend or in your time here?
Yeah, so I hadn't thought about applying to Harvard until my senior fall. My plan was basically to go to college wherever was least expensive because my parents were in no financial situation to pay full tuition, really at any university. But I was reached out to by the UMRP, and they kind of reassured me that financial cost wouldn't be an issue, wouldn't be a barrier to my coming here. So, I read up on it and figured out what Lucerito just highlighted. So I decided to apply, and it was $10,000 less expensive for me to come to Harvard than the least expensive state school I was accepted to. And I think that's also very common in our peer institutions. So I would say don't think that just because a school is a private school and has a big price tag that there won't be help a lot of the time there's actually more help to help you attend those schools.
We also had another question from Anas Chair, asking about extracurriculars. Particularly wanted to know if they could join the swimming club as an international student, but I think the follow-up question is how many extracurricular activities can I get involved in? I think that's actually a really great question, because when students arrive on campus, there's a big extracurriculars fair, over 450 student-run organizations on campus. So what are your experiences in selecting your extracurriculars, how many you decided to get involved in, and how you manage your time along with classwork and time with friends, and etc.?
Yeah, that's a really great question. To answer that, first of all, yes, you can join the swimming club as an international student. In fact, Andrea is on the swimming club as well. But regarding extracurriculars in general, that is something that's it's often done on Harvard's campus. In fact, I would say all students do participate in some sort of extracurricular. And this is really great because not only are Harvard students very passionate about their academics, but also things outside of the classroom. So I have a lot of friends who do things like write for the Crimson, which is our daily newspaper, or they're in pre-professional clubs like pre-medical society or pre-law, whatever it is. But students, there's definitely an opportunity to get involved in that kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, while it might be a little bit difficult at first getting used to the workload here, not saying it's too hard or anything, but it might take a little bit of getting used to. Once you learn to prioritize things, it really becomes so much easier. So during freshman year, I decided right off the bat that I wanted to prioritize academics, then my extracurriculars, and then my social life. And once I made those decisions, I was able to pretty much order everything around and be able to get everything done that I wanted to. Coming in as a freshman, I didn't know exactly what my interests were, but once I just kind of tried out a couple clubs, I figured out what I was really interested in. And at the end of the day, I've been able to balance it all.
I think it comes down to kind of what it is that you value. Do you value getting 9 hours of sleep every night? Do you value being involved in 5 extracurricular clubs? I would say it starts getting a little bit hard when you get above 3, but 3 is certainly enough to kind of keep you busy. And if you're very well organized, you can definitely take on multiple clubs at Harvard.
I think it kind of depends on the individual. Some students love extracurriculars and they pursue 4, 5, 6 extracurricular activities. Some students like myself have to balance a heavy football load and a heavy academic load, so I don't participate in as much extracurricular activities during the football season, but out of the season I definitely participate. I really love intramural basketball and club basketball, and that's one of my passions here on campus. My blocking group, I think we take that a little bit too seriously at times. But it's just one example of something that students can do on campus, and like Kimi said, almost everyone participates in some form of extracurricular activity on campus, so it makes it really easy to reach out and make new friends and also learn a lot more about Harvard.
Denzel, Leah was wondering if, as a student athlete, you still have time to have the true college experience in respect to social life and school and also balancing your workouts.
Well, definitely. And I think that's the most important thing about being a student athlete here is that you get the best of both worlds. You're not limited in any world. Once you cross the river, you're an athlete. As soon as you cross back, you're a Harvard student. And Harvard's really, really great about helping students make that transition into college. Like, I am active on everything on campus. I have the opportunity to be in cultural clubs. I'm in a few Christian-based Bible study groups here on campus. I can do what I want because I have that flexibility with my schedule, and I still can make a full commitment being on the football team and having to balance my academic load. I really love how Harvard gives students the autonomy to do what they want, and also that comes with the responsibility of prioritizing and also managing your time.
So Sandra Aka wanted to know if there are any disadvantages applying to Harvard College as an international student, and I want to let you know, definitely not. We are need blind for all students, including international students. What this means is that when we're reviewing applications, we review them first and foremost holistically. We look at every part of an application in making a decision. We look at an application within the context that it is coming from. So we read regionally. There are specific admissions officers responsible for specific geographic regions around the world. And the goal with this is so that when we are reviewing an application, we are familiar with the cultural, economic, and academic context of your school, of your community, of your city, state, country, whatever it may be. Because we want to make sure we're understanding what things actually mean within the context that you're coming from. And we also don't have to worry about whether or not a student or family is able to pay when we're reviewing applications, because we're very fortunate to have enough funding to provide full financial aid for all students who need it, regardless of citizenship or background. So there's no advantage or disadvantage in applying from any region in the country or any region in the world. We really are looking at you within the context that you're coming from to get a real sense of, given the opportunities that you have had access to, where you are from, where you are studying, what have you done with those opportunities provided? And we know they're obviously going to range from region to region, high school to high school, city to city, person to person, and we really want to be cognizant and respectful of that. But thinking back on your time here so far, what have been some of the biggest challenges that you have faced at Harvard?
Well, other than the weather for me, it has been learning how to manage my time and to prioritize what things I want to partake in. So for me, like I mentioned before, athletics and academics were really big parts of my schedule, and I kind of had to manage my time so I wasn't overwhelmed. And that kind of entails like planning ahead for when I had papers, exams. Wanted to meet with professors or TFs who were really accessible, both inside and outside of class. But I would say managing my time was definitely the biggest adjustment because of the extended course load and the athletic requirements.
For me, it was more so figuring out what I want to do with my life. So throughout high school, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know, people ask you constantly, like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to study? And things like that. And you kind of feel pressure to just choose something and run with it. So I went with pre-med. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. But I came on campus, and I had a couple conversations with my academic advisor, who you're set up, every single freshman is set up with as a when they first come on campus. And I had a conversation with her, and she really just made me rethink, like, what are you passionate about, and what would you like to pursue for the rest of your life? And after literally just 20 minutes of sitting with her, she helped me realize that maybe applied math was a better fit for me, and now I do study applied math. But it was really great to be able to have someone there basically just make me rethink what I wanted to do, because what I said I wanted to do wasn't exactly for me. And it was great to have someone there to just kind of encourage me to do so. And ever since then, I've absolutely loved my switch. All the classes that I take, I absolutely love, and I'm happy that I was able to have that opportunity to meet with someone who helped me figure that out.
I think my biggest kind of thing coming, especially the first month, was feeling very overwhelmed and kind of feeling like I needed to justify my being at Harvard, because all of my classmates are so amazing and are so accomplished. But I think it's just kind of like I have to remind myself all the time, like, I'm here for a reason, and I can't compare myself to other people. Some people got an A on that test, and the B+, I gave it the best that I could, and I'm just as proud of my B+ as someone is of their A. And so, I mean, I think that was quickly kind of shaken off, because I quickly figured out it's not a competitive environment at all. But initially, it was very intimidating, kind of going from being the top student at my school and in my community to all of a sudden being in a place where everyone is extraordinary. But now I've learned to kind of more be inspired by my classmates than necessarily be intimidated by them.
Great. So we have another question from a viewer, Cassandra, which says, my family and I are first-generation Ghanaian immigrants, and we are very connected to our roots. Are there any African groups that I can join at Harvard?
That's a really great question. So, as I mentioned, I'm Nigerian, so I do know a lot about Ghanaian culture, but on campus in particular, I would recommend Harvard African Students Association, which is a really, really great group on campus. We always have general shows and fairs and things like that for African cultures on campus, and it's really great because they also do order food from those various countries, and it's really awesome to be able to have that opportunity to get home-cooked meals, in a sense, on campus without having to go too far. So yes, definitely HASA, Harvard African Students Association, would be the thing for you.
We've had two more questions regarding financial aid, both pertaining to financial aid for international students, asking whether our financial aid program applies to international students or non-U.S. citizens. And the answer is absolutely yes. International students or non-U.S. citizens get exactly the same kind and amount of financial aid as any U.S. citizen or resident. So as I mentioned, we are very fortunate to have the funding to be able to provide full aid for students who need it. So that applies to international students as well. Isha also would like to know if cultural groups hold fairs on campus throughout the year.
I would say maybe not necessarily fairs, but like dances, gala dinners, weekly meetings, kind of like that. And then the big weekend with kind of a university and college-wide fair would be our Cultural Rhythms Weekend, which happens in the spring. Really every single cultural club on campus will have a booth with like food or just kind of information about their group, and then tons of groups will participate in the actual Cultural Rhythms show. And like every year, a prominent like artist in the music industry that is of a minority background is invited, and they kind of host the event. So that's kind of the big multicultural thing on campus every year.
So each of you, still have a couple of years left in your experiences here. But looking back on your time here so far, do you think that Harvard has changed you? And if so, how?
Well, I guess I'll go. I think Harvard definitely, I wouldn't say changed, but like, forced me to step out of my comfort zone a lot. I remember in high school when I was back home, I had a close group of friends, and we kind of did everything together. We were kind of the same. We hung out, and we kind of like knew each other. We were comfortable with each other. I feel like coming to Harvard kind of forced me to branch out. And, like being on the football team, once I found out that for freshman year I wasn't going to be living with anybody on the football team, it was kind of like scary because nobody was going to have my same schedule. Like nobody knew like, I had to get up at 5:30 in the morning, whatever the case may be. But I ended up actually like loving it and loving the differences of like the cultures that I was around. And I just kind of grew in that experience, and I became comfortable not being comfortable. Like I loved reaching out, trying new food, learning different languages, hearing different experiences, and seeing people go on crazy trips around the world and hearing their stories. So I think that's how Harvard has affected me the most, just really trusting myself to branch out and to learn more about different cultures.
Yeah, I think any change I've experienced has been more growth, positive change. I think I'm a lot more independent, being 3,000 miles away from home. I'm from California, so I have to kind of be more independent and figure things out on my own. But I think the biggest area of growth that I've encountered, the biggest area of change, is kind of appreciating my hometown. Everyone is always trying to get out of Carpinteria because it's so small, but now I get to go back and kind of more savor it and realize how much I've grown being able to grow up there and then bringing what I've learned growing up in such a small community to Harvard. So I guess it's all good, but not any bad change.
Kimmy, do you have any thoughts on?
I think they already hit on it for the most part. So generally, I would agree with that. That the way that I've changed the most is that I've gotten a lot more exposure. So that's really just made me a more aware individual, if anything at all. Back at home, I know a huge population of where I'm from. A lot of people are Latino or they're Hispanic. And coming here, it's been very different to really encounter different cultures on our campus. But at the end of the day, it's really just taught me more about people's backgrounds.
Great. So we've got another question from Cassandra, and she wants to know if there are any advantages to having a multicultural background during the admissions process. And this is a very good question because as admissions officers, as a committee, we are very interested in building a very diverse class. But it's important to understand that diversity comes in many different forms. There is certainly racial, cultural, ethnic diversity, religious diversity, socioeconomic diversity, diversity in terms of academic interests, backgrounds, experiences. We're really looking to build a class of individuals who are really going to push each other, to learn from each other, to challenge each other, and experience the kind of growth that Denzel, Kimi, and Andrea have just talked about. And in order to do that, we look at a wide variety of factors. And a student's racial and cultural background is certainly one of those factors, but it's one of many. And we want to make sure we understand a student's full identity as much as possible through the application process. And for some students, their racial identity is a really big part of their experience and their personal identity. For other students, it's not necessarily what they think is the most interesting thing about themselves, or perhaps they're a lot more shaped by a different aspect of their identity and background. So we don't want to make any assumptions about people based on their cultural background, but it's certainly one of many things that we're looking at in our effort to build a diverse class. So thank you for that question. So we have a couple minutes left, so I'd like to invite the three of you to share any closing thoughts you have, sort of if you'd like to, any overarching words about your Harvard experience thus far or moving forward, or anything that you found most surprising, and thinking about any advice you might give to prospective students who are thinking about applying or attending Harvard.
I mean, I think, I know it sounds hypocritical coming from someone who goes to Harvard, but your college decision is ultimately going to come down more to fit than it will kind of to your grades and stuff like that. And also something that I didn't think about too much, but I lucked out coming to a place where I absolutely love it, is the residential experience. You could really get a great education anywhere, Harvard included, but other places also. And something to think about is that you're going to be living at this place for 4 years. So what drew me to Harvard and kind of convinced me to apply was the area. I love Boston, but I like being 10 minutes outside of Boston, and I'm kind of in a smaller setting in Cambridge. And I also just kind of like the vibe that the students gave at Harvard. They don't take themselves extremely seriously or anything like that. And I also enjoy being at a primarily residential college. 98% of our students live on campus, so I think that's really nice for me, because I would feel really lonely if I went somewhere where people went home every weekend and I didn't have anywhere to go home. So I think a lot of my favorite parts of Harvard have come outside of the classroom through the people and the experience. So I would say as you're making your college choice, think about how that setting is going to impact you, because I think your ultimate level of happiness is going to depend upon that, and not necessarily whether they have a finance major or not, if that makes sense.
I totally agree with that. I would definitely say focus more on a fit rather than like grades and GPAs and things like that. That was really big for me when deciding where I wanted to go to school. Some advice that I was given was to construct a list of 5 to 10 things that was unique about myself and that I held true and that I was looking for in whatever college I wanted to go to. And when I was evaluating schools and colleges, I kind of compared them to that list. So I knew I was always staying true to myself and what I wanted from my college experience. And once I decided on Harvard, the biggest difference for me was the people. I really just meshed with the people. I really loved the people and how down to earth they were, and the family-like atmosphere here. So I would just encourage you guys to, whatever school that you feel, has those things that you're really looking for, whatever school you see that yourself as a good fit for, I would say go for it with everything you have. Don't undermine yourself, and give it your best shot, and all the best wishes.
Yeah, so Andrea and Denzel definitely hit on the biggest part of it here at Harvard. A lot of it is about fit, and I personally feel like as a student who came here, I absolutely love it here, and never have I regretted choosing this school in particular. But I think one thing that's really important to remember throughout high school in this period where things are just getting really, really crazy, just remember to be a person, step back, and acknowledge everything that's going on, and just take everything a step at a time. So with like SATs coming up and applying to schools, it's really difficult to figure out what you want to do with your life. But at the same time, college is such a shaping experience that it's important to think about the type of people you want to be around on campus. So wherever you go visit, wherever you get into, just remember to be reflective about it. Is this really what I want out of my college education? Is this really the type of people who I'd like to be around on a regular basis? And hopefully that would really help out throughout the process.
Okay, so Lucerito's microphone is unfortunately.
There we go.
I just want to say thank you to our three students, Kimi, Denzel, and Andrea, for sharing your experiences so thoughtfully and gracefully. And thank all of you for joining us for this last 45 minutes or so. We hope this was helpful, but I also want to really encourage you to get in touch with the Undergraduate Minority Recruitment Program. We are here available as a resource to you throughout the year. Students like Denzel, Kimi, and Andrea are available to answer any questions you might have. So please email them at umrp@fas.harvard.edu. And they're more than happy to assist you. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of the day, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.